And now for something completely and totally and utterly different. And if you hear something in the background, that's me doing some work with the clothes. Because yes, I do clothes. I'm awake at night, go figure. Well, if you're wondering about the Great Battle series, it originated from three different entities: the Giant Heroes, the Giant Hero, anime, and of course, Kamen Rider. So, because of these three different entities, because yes, Ultraman is part of Tokusatsu, Kamen Rider is something totally different, and then you have Gundam, which is basically part of something bigger. That's the reason why you have Super Robot Tyson and the Great Battle, and that's the reason why you have such crossovers. However, we now turn our attention to the most important thing that I feel needs to be talked about, and that is what is still going on now, and what we kind of so watch now and not watch. Namely, if you are either a Super Sentai fan or a Power Rangers fan, and most of us grew up watching Power Rangers, then this article I am going to share is for you. Sentai and Power Rangers and their shift between darker and edgier to lighter and softer. Are you a fan of darker and edgier or lighthearted Sentai or Power Ranger series? Then take a little moment and read this article from a friend. And the original author's name is Sean Akizuki. And if you're wondering about Jungle, it's a place somewhere in Little Tokyo, far, far, far from where I am, and they sell a lot of Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and everything in between, that sort of thing. It's a Toku, and it's in a Toku heaven in my neck of the woods. And I usually just order from there, since I don't go to that place very much. Because really, I don't. It's like way, way over on the other side of town. So I have to give them their props. Sentai. We might as well know it back as Go Ranger. Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. Which was shown in the Philippines with that rather awful dub called Star Rangers, followed by Jaka. One might consider that Sentai back then was usually more violent, with the idea of blood, darker stories, and so on. Which, of course, one could consider the tone of Super Sentai, especially back in the 80s, were really serious, and you might as well consider darker. One could consider even the supposedly lighter shows had all the darker and edgier elements. So we introduced to Hirohisa Soda, whose writings after Goggle 5, Dai Sentai Goggle 5, Dynaman, and Bioman start to even get more serious. I can remember even in the premiere of Bioman, there was blood in the first episode. Changeman, Flashman, Maskman, Liveman, Turbo Ranger, and Fiveman were still serious. Okay, not really. Turbo Ranger and Fiveman were lighter, but still more serious compared to today's Super Sentai. Now we're going to talk about the era which Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came in. Compared to Power Rangers, one might consider Super Sentai to be darker during the 90s up to 2000. One could consider this. Chojin Sentai Jetman was Toshiki Inoue's first head writing work, and probably the most darkest of all Sentai series. Some say it's the most serious, but I think Live Man still gets that vote. I've seen Jetman, it gets pretty deep. I've never seen Live Man, so I wouldn't know. Mask Man was more serious than Jetman for me. Toshiki Inoue wasn't sucky, yet, but he did show he was bad at one thing, his shock value. He could have killed Guy Yuki honorably, but why kill him in such a way to troll audiences? Inoue is known for having contributed to Flashman, Maskman, Lifeman, Turbo Ranger, and Fiveman. He also wrote for Zyuranger, Dairanger, and Kakuranger. In English, Zyuranger was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Dairanger was, I believe, Dairanger never was Americanized, and Kakuranger, Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. I kid you not. The Sugimura era. The late Nobuta Sugimura wrote Zyuranger, Dairanger, Kakuranger, and O-Ranger. O-Ranger over here was dubbed as Power Ranger Zeo. Zyuranger, despite its supposedly light and chock full of nightmare fuel, even before Burai came. Compared to Mighty Morphin, Zyuranger had more. Really, they had a lot more. I mean more darker and edgier stuff. Dairanger and Kakuranger were pretty serious. The darker and edgier O-Ranger shifted to a lighter and softer tone due to the sarin gas incident, but despite that, it was still considerably darker than its Power Rangers counterpart, Zeo. Power Ranger came in to kick in a lighter and softer Sentai, and plus it was the second vehicle-based Sentai during its time. Power Ranger was campy, full of laughs, and while attempted to be a parody, it wasn't. It was funny for some, but it can't be considered all nonsensical either, just a new formula for Sentai to try to be lighter. However, after that, Mega Ranger, otherwise known as Lost Galaxy, came with still... Damn it, not now. Not now. Yes. Okay. Yeah, 2 o'clock, that's what usually happens. Back to what I was saying. Sorry about that. However, after that, Mega Ranger, otherwise known as Lost Galaxy, came with still some serious and funny, which was probably a test to balance things out. During that time, Mega Ranger was most likely what you would call softer and lighter. It was pretty much trying to pay tribute to the Soda era, with elements from Bioman, Flashman, and Turbo Ranger rolled into one. Yasuko Kobayashi came in, and she's very known for her darker and edgier stuff. And she wrote a good portion. Meanwhile, Power Rangers in Space... Oh, wait, King of Man. Power Rangers in Space was Mega Ranger. My bad. Meanwhile, Power Rangers in Space was Power Rangers attempting the darker and edgier, even though I don't think it was ever that dark or edgy. Just to be honest. That was when at the time I tried to get into the later versions after Mighty Morphin, but I couldn't. So like after O-Ranger, I couldn't get into it. Then we have Gingaman, Kobayashi's first head writing work, and we later have Lost Galaxy. Judd Lin's second head writing work, his first was In Space. Gingaman happens to be Kobayashi's magnum opus, and a great start, like Inoue's was with Jetman. Lost Galaxy was one of the more serious Power Ranger seasons. In fact, one might consider that Lightspeed Rescue and Time Force were almost as serious as their original counterparts, Go-Go 5 and Time Ranger. Time Force did try to eventually water down seriousness because of the 9/11 incident, but fortunately it didn't go down the drain. After Time Ranger, everything started to get a little bit lighter. For one, you might consider that Power Rangers either play an influence on also on Super Sentai. You might as well consider most Sentai these days are lighter and try to avoid being over serious. You might consider that after Time Ranger, most villains weren't as frightening as they used to be. Maybe except for Abaranger, Dino Thunder, Deca Ranger, SPD, Shinkenger, Samurai, and Go Busters. Never came over. But none of them are really over serious. In fact, it seems today that most kids prefer the lighter and softer. If you talk about comical, you might want to put Magi Ranger, Mystic Force, Bokenger, Operation Overdrive, and Goanga, RPM, to that list. Gal Ranger, Wall Force, is a more balanced season. Now, for Go Busters. Did Go Busters fail because it attempted to go back to darker and edgier? Yasuko Kobayashi usually had her forte with darker and edgier, but had to say, sure bores me. Maybe it's because of Naomi Takebe. Then again, she is the producer of Kamen Rider Kiva and O's, which are two seasons that I like. But let's face it, Go Busters may have failed because kids found it too serious compared to the Sentai they used to watch, or it's just plain boring. For me, it's more the plain boring side, and that Inoue Kobayashi is more or less in the same level of burnout. That usually happens. So, they tried Kyoryuga, to which was the third dinosaur season. Dinosaurs and Sanbai. That show feels stupid for me. I might try to watch it later, but it feels bad. Yet Toei had allowed Saban to skip Go Busters for Kyoryuga. Then we had Toga lately, which feels like a parody. So what are your thoughts? So what's your genre like? Are you one like me who likes darker and edgy, or someone who likes a little less serious and on the light side? Okay, truth be told, I'm not going to read the comments here because there were only 2 comments. Plus, I want to share my point of view about Sentai and, Sentai, Ultraman, and Kamen Rider as a whole. Okay? Now, I'll be perfectly honest. When this happened, this is what happened to me. I originally, when I was growing up, I watched a show called Ultra Q. Well, actually, not Ultra Q, but Ultra 7. As it was called in color, Ultra 7, formerly dubbed as Ultraman. When I was younger, I watched a lot of anime. I've watched so much anime. I've watched dubbed versions of anime that made no sense. Back in the day, I watched Voltron, I watched Robotech before I even knew their original counterparts. I've watched so much anime, even the ones that weren't considered anime, that was considered anime, yet TMS. If you don't know what TMS is Tokyo Movie Shinsha. So therefore, with everything that was going on and all the anime that I've ever watched, even the ones on Nickelodeon back in the day, yes, Grimm's Fairy Tales was an anime, and I enjoyed it. I've seen the little bits. I've seen most anime up to the point where I kind of not watch Adult Swim now, because anything I don't watch on Adult Swim, I go to here just to watch Blue Exorcist. Because every time I watch Blue Exorcist, it's a good series. Or like I said, one series. It's one of the very few series that I kind of watch on Go-Go Anime. And when I watch on Go-Go Anime, it's what I usually watch. So you're wondering why is it a part of what I'm talking about? Gundam. Since Gundam, Ultraman, and the Kamen Rider series all form the Great Battle series. Therefore, it's only right to go back to their base form, mainly of Tokusatsu, Kamen Rider. You lump in Super Sentai because they have a giant robot. And anime. So that's why Super Sentai is lumped in with the Great Battle series, because they have a robot. It's all full. It's usually four characters. Roar is basically a mascot, the mascot of Band Presto, so therefore he doesn't count. But the rest of the other elements, namely Tokusatsu, Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, I'm going to count Ultraman as Tokusatsu. Here's what I honestly here's what I honestly think. Give me a moment. As I was saying, here's what I honestly think about Super Sentai and Power Rangers. Okay, Super Sentai, to me... Let me turn my fan off. I know it's low, but... make me sweat. Anyway, Super Sentai has a history since the 70s up to now. And you count that history, you have 40 some years. Because like I said, it's all the way back to the 70s. But really, Tokusatsu has been all the way back since Moonlight Mask. And that was like the first action series. That was the first action series on Japanese television. But since the first series was called Go Ranger, the first series in Super Sentai was Go Ranger. Go Ranger from Go Ranger to now, which is Tokyo. Yeah, Super Sentai has been dark and has been light. And possibly the last good Sentai I've actually ever seen was Mahou Sentai Majiranger. That was the last great series I've actually ever seen. Now, yeah, that means that Sailor Moon is lumped into the Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, not Pretty Soldier Sailor Moon. There's a difference. The anime is called Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon. The Toku version, the live action version, is called Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. I can say that it's kind of lumped in together because they're part of Super Sentai. They're part of Super Sentai and Tokusatsu as well. And like I said, I've seen plenty of I've seen plenty of Sentai from the short time I've actually watched Sentai. And I think it's been like 5 years since I've watched some good Sentai. And it goes back to when I first started going to my comic book expo. My local expo, which is the comic book sci-fi expo. And what they used to do, I'm still not sure if they do it now because I haven't been there in years. But this is what they do. What they usually do is they would show Kamen Rider, a Super Sentai, an Ultraman series, and something in between, like usually an indie Japanese movie, or something like that. They would show something in between everything that's being shown. But I remember that I bought a few things. From that expo. Some you've actually seen me show off. Some you haven't seen me show off quite yet. I know I have a comic. I know I have a comic feature coming up Kamikame coming up, and one of these and one series that I plan to show you is Toei Spider-Man. Toei Spider-Man is totally different from the Spider-Man we know because the origin is different. But I can honestly say about this is that you can't have just light without dark. It has to be a balance. For 3 whole decades, because everything had a certain theme. You notice this if you've ever watched any Super Sentai, or if you watch Power Rangers, you will notice they have a certain theme. Like, one is the basic colors, another is family oriented, another might be vehicle oriented, another might be beast oriented or dinosaur oriented. Because like I said, it's totally different. They have a certain theme. Every Sentai has a certain theme that they go by. Even, yes, 3-man team. The first 3-man team was called Taiyo Sentai Sanvokan. The second was, of course, Bakuryu Sentai Abaranger. Because really, they start off as a 3-man team. So technically, there have been only 2 3-man teams so far. And they always manage to recycle that. They always manage to do this. It's like one might be with colors, one might be with cards, one might be with this, one might be with that, but they keep it going. Now, depending on how people treat it, and mind you, it's aimed towards kids. All of this is aimed towards kids. Because, kids. They like action. They like adventure. Sometimes the story don't make sense, but they like the action and the adventure. They like to keep it simple. Me? I like it all. Shit. I like it all because it is just, to me, I like it. It's something that, I don't mind watching for a couple hours. Is that true? I got some anime and Toku right here. I got Astro Boy sitting next to me, and I got Ultraman, the original Ultraman, and Jason Will Warrior sitting next to me. I have 3 series I'm currently still watching, and to that extent, I don't mind watching them because it's interesting. Hell, I even got a whole mess of anime and Toku that I haven't even watched because I've been so busy with everything else. And sometimes I just want, just take a night off, watch anime or some Toku, and, kick back with a bag of popcorn and watch it, just because. But as I said before, it all counts on the viewer. Because there always has to be a balance. Sometimes you have to have something dark and edgy. Because sometimes, the light and soft stuff just won't cut it. You need something in between that. So it's like, yes, you need something like this to balance out this side. Because really, it's just needed. I mean, hell, look at Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider is just as old. Kamen Rider is just as old as Super Sentai and Tokusatsu combined. I mean, Kamen Rider started in the 70s, and it's still going strong. Now we're just going to ignore the fuck up that was Masked Rider and move on. And for those who don't remember, Masked Rider, it was basically a very terrible dub of Kamen Rider Black RX. Because the sad thing about Kamen Rider was that when it came over to the States as Masked Rider, the whole thing that was messed up about it was the fact that the hero came from a distant planet. And if you look at the original Kamen Rider series, there were no riders that actually came to a freaking distant planet. They were all normal people who basically came in at the wrong damn time, but at the same time came in the right time. The situation was terrible, yet they somehow became a part of it, and therefore there they are. Converted from normal to a cyborg. And of course, the series was done by my idol, Shotaro Ishinomori. Same guy who did Cyborg 009 and everything else that you probably ever heard of, like the Skull Man. So technically, it all makes sense. Kamen Rider is no different than Super Sentai, because originally Kamen Rider was supposed to be a very dark series. However, it changed. I mean, I can say I have a few of the series. I have some of the movies, which is Kamen Rider the First. I have a few movies from the old series. I even went as far as seeing Kamen Rider J, Kamen Rider Zeta-O. Okay, yeah, I've seen Kamen Rider Zeta-O, Kamen Rider Shin, and Kamen Rider J. Not in that order, but I've seen the series. I know about it, and pretty much my personal writer out of the, I believe, Heisei era is Zekros. Or ZX. Zekros. Now, Ultraman, I haven't really even gotten into Ultraman because I'm just really starting off with the first of Ultraman, the very first series. I don't know about the rest of the series, but if I get into the rest of the series, because the only Ultraman series I really did watch, but I can't really remember so well, is Ultra 7. I know they tried showing Ultraman Tiga, but the dub was so bad I couldn't watch Ultraman Tiga when it came out on Fox Kids. I mean, back in the day, in the 90s, they were trying to make tokusatsu worth watching over here. Thus, that's the reason why you had Power Rangers, you had Masked Rider, and you had Ultraman, and even Big Bad Beetleborgs, which which was part of the Metal Hero series. Their original Japanese counterpart was Juko B Fighter, or Metal B Fighter. I kind of felt after I saw Beetleborgs, oh yeah, and also VR Troopers. VR Troopers was an amalgamation of two other shows, I think. It was made of 2 other shows, or I think it's 3 other shows. But it's just basically just a mixture of this show, and this show. And that's how VR Troopers was born. It's like, VR Trooper. I mean, it went somewhere, but then it's like, bleh. And another series, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, which was also a Metal Hero series. Gridman. I never knew that until, I actually saw what it really was. Denko Chojin Gridman. But like I said, there are some series that just didn't seem good at the time. But it's like, oh, we were brushing the tokusatsu and we didn't even know. Even though it was during the 90s. During the 90s, the cartoons were good. Just the kids' material, so-so. Because you have to remember, during the 90s, up to now, the Metal Heroes kind of died out. The Kamen Rider series was kind of like in and out. I mean, US-wise, in and out. Because after Master Rider, that was it. They didn't want... I don't blame Ishinomori for feeling the way he did. Because it's like, no, I don't want them messing up my story like that. So then that's when, later on, when the Showa writers were still going. And when I mean Showa, is like from Kuga to Gaim. Kuga to Gaim is Showa. And the end of the Heisei writers were with the movie writers. The movie writers was basically the end of the Heisei period, and for the Showa series, Kuga to Gaim, until they possibly make something else. You're wondering how I know about this stuff, because sometimes I watch streams of Sentai and usually just Sentai mainly. Sentai and Kamen Rider. But like I said, I'm kind of getting into the field of Tokusatsu and everything in between Tokusatsu. But like as I said, it is all out of personal preference. You can like a certain series, and then, you can watch a certain series and leave it to your own preference if you like to continue a certain series. I mean, if you really think about it, it's really what you like. If you like it, that's good. If you don't like it, that's fine. But it's just a series. Don't get too attached to it. Because I know certain people will get attached to certain series. And, a certain person, if a certain character they like died, they'll break down. But I mean, it happens. But we, as a collective few of nerds, geeks, otaku, and weirdos alike, we all like this stuff because we grew up with it. We watched it. We didn't know what the hell we were watching, but we watched it anyway. Like, hell, I didn't know Gold Line was the original counterpart of Voltron. I picked that shit up just because. I'm like, oh wait, this is Voltron. Let me pick this up. Boom, there we go. And I found it much more cooler because they cut parts that I didn't even know existed. Like the original death of the Blue Lion. Well, I didn't know about that until until I saw the entire scene play out. I mean, that to me it just says something, It just says, you can enjoy a series. It can be dark and still have a bit of light into it. And, it don't have to be totally, totally dark. But there's some shows that can be as dark as they want to be and as edgy as they want to be, and then there's some shows that aren't like that. They're total opposite. But in all the same, hey, I don't mind. And I mean, I really don't mind. I'm just watching it just for the sheer entertainment value that it gives. Simple as that. Most people, I feel today, if you watch a movie or if you're into something that you like, that's good, but don't get too attached to it. I mean, if you like what you like, that's good, but don't. It's good to be attached, but don't get really, 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 really attached to it. I mean, I'll admit I do enjoy playing video games, and every so often, I pretty much play video games. I mean, every often, I like to make a video on Let's Plays. I like to do this, I like to do that, but some things take up more of my time these days than others may realize. But the thing is, it's still good. It's still good because I can actually, enjoy what I do and still talk about it. With no harm, no foul, and people not being like total and utter douchebags. Saying, you're too old to watch this, you're too old to do that. Yeah, you know what? My folks still watch The Wellness, and so do I. But that doesn't make me old. That just makes me appreciate the show's values. It's about importance and whatnot. Or I may watch, Matlock or whatever. I don't care what's on TV. I watch it. I watch INSP most times. If not anything else, I either watch INSP or GSN. I don't really watch most of them. Sometimes I watch Nicktoons, but not as much. But I don't really watch that much TV these days. And even if I do, it's just like something like a ball game. I'll catch a random ball game on TV and bam, that's it. But if I'm totally off the subject, my apologies. But really, as I said, it is out of personal preference. It is what I like to do sometimes. Sometimes I like to watch this, and sometimes I like to watch that. Sometimes I like to work on this, sometimes I like to work on that. You have to have a balance. Balance is very important. Balance is something that we should all take advantage of. You enjoy your work, but you want to do this. That's good. You always have to remember your balance. You like what you do, but you don't love it. I'm going to say it like that. You like your job, but you don't love your job. There's a total difference there. It's like with family and friends. I can deal with my family, but I like being with my friends. There are times in which I don't want to have friends, but I would need my friends anyway because they know how to cheer me up. And trust me, you don't like me when I'm in a bad mood or otherwise. But going back to the subject, it's all about balance and how you handle said balance. So I'm gonna leave this video with something I used to tell my students when I used to be a teacher. There is no right or wrong to do things. It's on how you want to do them that's considered right or wrong. And the subject was about poetry. Because before I taught Japanese, I taught poetry. So with that, I think I've said enough that I need to say. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you are a fan of tokusatsu and the like, visit jefusion.com for any and all things cool in the Japanese entertainment business. Also, if you like this video as well as other videos, subscribe, post comments, and of course, give me a thumbs up. And on top of that, do visit the Dorrance Publishing site for my book. It's on sale for $15 for a hardcover, $10 for ebook. And yes, I had to do it because you know why. Hadn't done it in a while, so. So until the next time of whatever I plan to post or whatever I'm going to work on, I've been the Tenkaichi of Gaming, PI7, and I will see you next time. So until then, take care, God bless, and have a great and wonderful weekend. Tenkai Muso!